Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So if you guys have popped on this channel before, you would have seen that normally I like to talk about like tarot related information. I do like pick a card readings, and I just get started with like the true crime and tarot series that I'm really excited to be working on in my free time. But a big part of like my presence on social media and a lot of what I've been talking about on Instagram and what I've even started making videos on here on YouTube is my health journey. And it's been something that's really important to me, especially, you know, as I'm a medical student, so kind of like I should be caring about that kind of a thing. But the main reason why I ended up going into medical school in the first place was honestly because I had my own health issues that I was trying to understand and I was trying to cure. So this whole video is going to be talking about how I had a diagnosis of Graves' disease, and throughout the years it actually turned into Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So I'm going to be talking about like my history with my thyroid disorder, what has happened to lead me to where I am today, and what my plan is going forward. I shared this news on Instagram, and I was really ecstatic, to be honest. Like this is actually a really good thing because it's finally giving me like an understanding on what's going on with my body and what I can do, what role I can play to help fix the issue, right? So to kind of bring it back, I was always a very active kid when I was growing up and when I was in high school. I played soccer, I was on the swim team, I was hiking a lot, like I was doing a lot of active movement. At the time, like most other teenage girls, I definitely struggled with body dysmorphia and like self-esteem issues. I ended up gaining a little bit of weight during high school, mainly because I was struggling with a major sugar addiction that I didn't realize at the time was so debilitating. But I struggled all the time with anxiety, depression, and it was a time in my life where I didn't really know how to express myself or how to kind of speak my mind. And so what I did a lot instead was I emotionally ate. And so I gravitated towards a lot of like sugary things. So ice cream or candy or cookies or whatever. I got really good at not telling the truth, and I would like hoard and like binge eat, you know, like trays and trays of cookies or like multiple pints of ice creams in one sitting. And so over time it eventually caught up with me. College, I was gaining like about 10 pounds a year. And right before I started my senior year of college, in July of 2013, I was diagnosed at the time with Graves' disease. And we caught it mainly because we were just doing like a regular routine blood draw. And I'm very fortunate to have a mother who is a physician. And it's one of the main reasons why we caught it in the first place, because it was her idea to have me get my blood drawn. Otherwise, I probably would not normally be going to see the doctor and just like thinking I'm fine and like not really worrying about it. But yeah, I mean, I was always struggling with anxiety, depression, and at that time, like I had gained so much weight from like drinking and partying and like eating crap food that we got me signed up with like a personal trainer that I could work with over the summer. And I started to have these weird blackout moments where I would notice myself get super dizzy, my vision would go black, and like if I watched my heart rate, it got into like the 210s, 200 like 215 kind of area, which is super scary. We did my blood draw, and that's when we found out that my thyroid levels were super out of whack. And so when I went to go see an endocrinologist, he confirmed and diagnosed me with Graves' disease. And so now kind of what I want to talk about is like breaking down the difference between what different kinds of thyroid disorders there are, so that it might help someone out there who maybe is struggling with these symptoms, to help them get an idea on what's going on in their life, you know? So with the thyroid is your gland located here in your neck, and it mainly helps with metabolism. It secretes hormones called T3 and T4, and they stand for much longer names that I'm not even gonna bore you with right now. But the hormones help to go into cells and to induce a metabolic process. So it's what helps your body recognize when it's time to burn calories, when it's time to utilize, maybe if you have extra fat in your system. It helps you burn those calories so that you can stay at a regular metabolic rate. And so the thyroid can have two different issues, where it can either be too overproductive or it can be underproductive. So hyperthyroidism or hypothyroidism. And so people who have hyperthyroidism, usually they will show up to a doctor saying, I have really bad anxiety, my heart rate is through the roof, I'm losing weight super quickly, I can't control my appetite, I feel like I'm constantly hungry. And I would say I had a good majority of those issues. I was definitely, my heart was totally racing, as I told you, it was in like the 210s. My anxiety was through the roof, like I couldn't get out of bed sometimes without having to fight down a panic attack. Like I was having them all the time. I did have like a huge appetite. I felt like I could just eat forever and never feel satiated. And then finally, which was the most weird thing, but like I said, I was actually gaining weight and not losing weight. But so medically speaking, Western medically speaking, I was within the category of having hyperthyroidism. Now, hypothyroidism is kind of like the opposite, where instead of having anxiety or high emotional levels, you have depression, and you're more likely to have thinning hair issues. Your heart rate might be super slow, and you would have issues losing weight. You're gaining too much weight. I was diagnosed with Graves', but I was having these really weird symptoms that were not in line with the usual diagnosis. And this was before I was in medical school, obviously. It was right before my senior year of college. And I just was like in so much shock at that moment in time. I didn't believe it. I didn't believe that was even an issue. To be honest, I completely wrote it off because I just didn't really think that it would be that big of a deal. I felt like my body would heal itself and I wouldn't have to worry about it. But my physician wanted me to get onto a medication called methimazole. And when I did take the medication, it made me feel nauseous. It made me feel sick to my stomach, made me feel super dizzy. I felt like even worse mentally speaking, like I had more anxiety, more depression issues than before. And I just never really felt like it was effective for me. I had a bad experience with that physician because I went back for a follow-up appointment not having taken the medication regularly, and he said something, he was very scolding towards me, and he said something like, if you don't take this medication, then there's no hope for you. Like, there's nothing I can do for you. You're just gonna die. And I was like, okay. But also the thing is that I was really depressed at that time in my life, and I was kind of in that state of like, I guess I don't care what happens to me because my body is falling apart anyway. So fast forward a period of time, and I was living at home in Arizona. I was working from home at the time. I had graduated college at that point. I think I was like 22 or 23 years old. And because I was working at home, I would like take lunch breaks and like listen to YouTube videos while I'm making lunch and whatever. And at that time, there was a woman on YouTube who was super popular, and her name, if you know her, is Freelee the Banana Girl, okay? And so this chick somehow made me like convinced that my health-related issues, because she also had health-related issues where she had gained a bunch of weight, and I forget what exactly she had. But basically, she got me clued into the idea of going vegan to fix my health issues, because she was making me believe, without scientific fact, without, much like analysis. Apparently, she had this experience where she went like on a banana only mono diet, and she literally ate nothing but bananas for like a few weeks. And so now her whole thing was to educate people about the idea of veganism and how it can be used to treat, your illnesses. And so that was something that I was on board with, but it took me a long period of time to realize the exact method in which she was going about doing it was wrong. Her idea was more so about, it's called fruitarianism, which is where you eat basically fruit. So she was mainly recommending a fruitarian diet. And to clarify what that means is she recommended a smoothie every single morning that consisted of five bananas. 5 bananas. And in my state of mind, I was so desperate at that point that I was ready to try anything. And so I was doing it. And, hear me out though, because I did actually end up starting to lose weight. I lost about 10 pounds. I was doing it for 90 days. And throughout that 90-day experience, I ended up talking with my mom about it and telling her what I was doing. And she was into the idea of it. She, like I said, she's a physician. So she was saying that there are definitely some studies out there that are supporting the idea of vegetarianism and veganism as diets that are more optimal for people's health. However, a majority fruit diet was like the opposite way to go about doing it, because you're still introducing an extremely high level amount of sugar into your diet. And foreshadowing, but the sugar was what was causing a lot of my thyroid issues, because the overload of the sugar that I was eating all throughout high school and throughout college was causing a major inflammatory reaction within my body that released. What happens is when you go through an inflammatory reaction like that, when you're eating foods that are that inflammatory, they cause your body to release something called an antibody. And the antibody is meant to tag the foreign thing that is in your body that's causing like this distress. And then it's supposed to tag it so that white blood cells can come in and like get rid of the problem, right? But when your body is constantly being introduced to the sugar, to other foods that are inflammatory, so like dairy or corn or soy, or for some people, gluten, the list goes on, your body reacts to it by treating it kind of like an internal allergic reaction. And that was basically what was happening to me, is despite the fact that I was losing pounds, I think I lost about 10 pounds in about 90 days. And when I redid my blood results, they actually did come back into the normal ranges. Despite all of that, I still felt like shit. Like I still felt like super fatigued, anxious, depressed, like all of my regular symptoms were still there, and I was still extremely overweight. And so the thing though was that by Western medical terminology, I was cured because my TSH value was back in the normal range. So that's kind of where I was for like the past few years. And so what I had believed was that, well, I had cured myself of my thyroid disease. Now I just had to go about losing the weight. And so it started me on this whole experience for this past year of working out regularly and watching my calorie content. And I did notice I was definitely gaining muscle. I was losing weight, but I was losing weight at a very slow rate, or I would lose the weight and then I would gain it back extremely quickly, likely due to the fact that I wasn't dealing with my sugar addiction to the best extent. And I would like detox, I would do sugar detoxes, but then I would eat sugar maybe like 2 or 3 weeks later after detoxing, and then just kind of fall back into the same rut. And so it took me a full year and a lot of frustration to be like, why am I not, having success? Why am I not losing the weight? Why am I not getting healthy? Like, clearly I'm moving my body, I'm building muscle, like I'm getting better at these workouts, but why is my body not responding? And the biggest answer overall for me was nutrition. I wasn't tracking it regularly. I wasn't paying attention to portion control. I wasn't I wasn't getting a good source of like multivitamins or phytonutrients. I wasn't eating the foods that I needed to be eating in order to get the nutrients my body was requesting in order to access energy. At that time, I was in medical school, so of course I was eating crappy. I was drinking coffee like twice a day with milk and sugar in it, and then I was also eating, like, they had, where I was studying, they had like a deli where you could go get a meal with 2 sides, and I would always get a chicken thigh, and I did get steamed vegetables, but I would get some kind of a starch with it, like bread or pasta or like potatoes or things like that. So that's been this past year. And now that I'm done with like the first half of medical school and I'm back in Phoenix with my family, we had the idea again to check my labs one more time. So now I want to go through the labs that I had done in the past and what they are now, and then the labs that we added on to the ones that we were taking in the past, because physicians, honestly, they didn't know to take these lab values until fairly recently, and even still, like, it's a growing trend. So the reason why I'm sharing these with you is because I hope for you, if you feel like you're having these symptoms or if you're not sure what's exactly going on with your body, that you would get these labs done in order to help you get an idea on what to do, okay? So I only had physicians take thyroid values for 2 different things. The first is called TSH, and this is the thyroid stimulating hormone. It's the hormone that comes from your hypothalamus, which is a part of your brain, and it moves down into your thyroid and it stimulates it to secrete hormones. And the hormones that the thyroid secretes are T4 and T3. So in 2013, my TSH value was like barely even recognizable. It was less than a 0.006. And so this is severely Graves. This means if it's that low, what it's trying to say is that my body has so much T3 and T4 in my system at that time, or so it thought, and I'll get to that later, that my body, my hypothalamus was like, well, she's got all this, the T3 and T4 that she can need, so we don't need to secrete more TSH because we don't need to tell the thyroid to secrete more stuff. The next value that we checked in 2013 was my T4. And like I said, this is the hormone that goes through and starts the process, the metabolic process. And at that time, it was a 2.74. Now, this is extremely above the normal range. The normal range is between about a 0.8 and a 1.75. I had a 2.74. So that's, like, again, off the chart, super high. 2016, my TSH, after I had spent that time like going vegan and like treating it, it was in the normal range. It was at okay, and so this is where I have to get a little bit more technical, is that physicians at the time felt like it was in the normal range, because at the time, a normal range is a 0.45 to a 4.5, but numerous studies have since found that the reference range is actually much more narrow than that, and a normal value for a TSH is about a 1.0. So again, I was at a 1.95, but at that time, physicians believed that that was normal, but for the new values, it actually is extremely hypo, because hypothyroid, which means that it's swung from a super low 0.006 to a super high 1.95, which means now my body is saying, oh, she doesn't even have any T3 or T4 in her body, so now we got to tell it to make it. So that was 2016 for TSH. 2016 for the T4 was a 1.23. So again, it went down for my standards. It was within the normal range, but the TSH being super high is explaining why it was in a normal range. Then in 2017, they tested my TSH and T4 again, and it went up. My TSH went up again to a 2.010, which again, still hypothyroidism, but it wasn't diagnosed. Going up, still was in the normal range, high TSH. That's where we were, okay? So physicians at that time felt like I was normal. I was still having the weight issues. I was still having issues losing weight. But at the time, I was blaming it on myself. I was blaming it on my inability to work out hard enough, or eat as little as possible, or whatever. And so it started a lot of really bad eating habits that now to this day I'm having to try to fix. So because of all of that, now that I've been back in Phoenix, people have learned. Well, my mom is one of the people that has learned, because she is involved in a field called functional medicine. And so these are the lab values that I would recommend to people if they're unsure if maybe they have Hashimoto's thyroiditis or any kind of autoimmune thyroiditis at all. If you are having weight issues, if you're having depression, anxiety issues, if your hair is thinning, if you feel like you don't really have much of an appetite, if you're having really hard issues in like temperature regulation, like if you get super cold super easily, or if you get way too hot super easily, I would highly recommend that you go talk with your physician and specifically get these tests, and I will explain why. So we took a look at my hemoglobin A1C, because this is a marker to test for diabetes, to just confirm like I was okay and not diabetic. In 2016, it was kind of high. It was at a 5.4, and pre-diabetic is above a 5.6. So I was kind of nearing that range. So that was a little spooky. But these are all my labs from 2019. So to finish off my TSH and T4 table right over here, the TSH as of this year, as of 2019, is at a 2.680. Off the charts, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, okay? T4, 1.31. So it's gone down a little, but that's because my TSH is like off the charts high. My A1C, which is a value used to test to see if people have diabetes, in 2016, I measured it at a 5.4, which is kind of a little bit close to pre-diabetic. But as of 2019, I brought it down to a 5.0. And this is likely due to the fact that this last year, I cut out sugar like completely. I barely drink sugar anymore, I barely eat or drink sugar anymore, and I barely drink alcohol anymore. But I was still eating meat, I was still eating dairy, gluten, corn. So like I was still eating a lot of things that were inflammatory to my body. My vitamin D, and this is a big deal. So vitamin D is a specific vitamin that is associated with helping your T3 and your T4 hormones become metabolized, or like actually get into your cells. And it being super low is highly associated again with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. The low range is a 30, mine is at a 32.4. So it's super low, needs to be brought back up. And then so the next one that I would highly recommend is a C-reactive protein cardiac. And this is specific protein that is used to tell physicians if your body is inflamed. It's scary. But so here's the big one. You want to test for two antibodies, your thyroglobulin antibody and your thyroid peroxidase or TPO antibody. And these antibodies are specifically high in Hashimoto's thyroiditis because what it does is and this is why my body went from Graves to Hashimoto's, is that when my body was eating foods that were inflammatory or that my body is sensitive to, these antibodies would get released and then would mimic the effects of TSH, and it would tell the body it would tell my thyroid to secrete hormones, to metabolize, right? And over time, that was happening so much because I was eating foods that I was sensitive to so often that my thyroid literally deteriorated, and it swung from a Graves from overproduction to not having enough to produce to now my hypothalamus is having to overproduce TSH in order to tell my thyroid to keep going. So my thyroid peroxidase antibody is off the charts high with a normal range of 0 to 34, and mine was at a 268. Jesus. So those are my lab values, right? So I'm officially hypothyroid. That is why this last year I have been having issues losing weight, and that is why I'm here today making this video, because this is actually a really good thing, because this is finally giving me the insight into why my body is behaving the way it is. And I'm grateful, honestly, that it's behaving the way it is, because it's been fighting to help protect me against the things inside it that are not good for it, right? So what do I do from here? What do I recommend anybody does from here? You have to start providing your body with the foods and the sustenance that it needs in order to let it do its job and to heal itself. So I take now a cocktail of vitamins. I am taking a phytonutrient. I am taking fish oil. I am taking vitamin D, 5,000 international units a day, all to help provide the nutrients, like I said, that my body needs in order to do its job regularly. I'm also taking medication. I'm taking levothyroxine 75 micrograms, which I will be rechecking in about 6 weeks. And this is thyroid hormone replacement. The plan is to not need to be taking this long term. I want to be able to heal my body and heal my thyroid so that it can get back to its working order. And so I'm doing this to help supplement it so that it can get back to its regular working state. Now, on top of that, I am doing a plant-based diet for the time being, mainly to focus on flushing out all of the crap that's been built up in my body as inflammation, and giving myself the opportunity to get myself back to a neutral state so that I can really test and understand what foods I am sensitive to. I know for sure, because the last time that I went vegan, that I'm sensitive to dairy, gluten, rice, anything processed, so anything that has a preservative in it, it makes me itch, it makes me flare up, I get super anxious and everything, it's horrible. And even meat mostly just makes me feel constipated. But so on top of the vitamins, I am taking a daily multivitamin, but also it's a meal replacement protein shake. It's called Shakeology, and it's a part of a workout program that I've been doing where all my workouts are from home. This gets shipped to me every month, and so I eat a scoop of this as a meal replacement every day. And it comes with amazing superfoods that unfortunately we wouldn't be able to find normally in American produce, because everything is so stretched out to its thinnest, GMO'd, genetically fricked with crap, that I'm not going to be able to get this nutrients in my system unless I have it power packed into one easy meal, right? So it's a meal replacement because it has a protein blend in it, and this is a vegan formula, but it comes also in like a whey protein. But the protein from this comes from chia, pea, sacha inchi, flax, quinoa, rice, and oat. And then it also has an antioxidant blend in it, which is actually meant to help fight off the inflammation in my body. It helps to neutralize the flare, and so antioxidants are usually meant to help fight off something called radical oxygen species, which are molecules that have a negative charge to them that end up causing my body to be much more acidic, or like, yeah, it kind of is like eating my body from the inside out to have all of this crap just like sitting in there. So antioxidants are meant to help neutralize radical oxygen species, turning it from a negative to a neutral, or sometimes a positive, and then it helps flush it out of my system. It comes also with a phytonutrient blend, but it's just not enough, so that's why I'm also supplementing with a phytonutrient vitamin. And then it has a really awesome adaptogen blend. Now, adaptogens are naturally sourced hormones from mushrooms that are meant to help your adrenal glands with producing hormones that respond to stress. So it helps to regulate your cortisol values. It helps to regulate any of your stress hormones in general. And then finally, it comes with a pre and a probiotic also in it. So all of these things, so the pre and probiotic help your digestive system, which, by the way, if you have hypothyroidism, it's very common for you to feel constipated because your body is so low in energy that your gut is not performing what's called peristalsis, where it's squeezing the poop out of your body, and it's just too tired to do it. And so it's in fight or flight mode, and one of the first things that gets shut off when your body is in fight or flight mode, when you're in like high anxiety state kind of a thing, is it shuts down your gut. So it's just this really fun cycle of not funness, but we're gonna fix it. Oh, I also forgot to mention other vitamins that are super important to thyroid recovery: selenium and zinc. They're both really great at actually helping the thyroid hormones do its job, and like creating the hormones that it needs, kind of a thing. So the plan right now is I've already taken my measurements, I've taken my before shot and everything, and I've written it all down. And the plan is to do this plan for about 6 weeks, and then recheck all my lab values, recheck my measurements and everything to see how I've progressed. And at that point, we will either choose to make adjustments to my medication or adjustments to my meal plan. So if you guys are curious to know what exactly I'm eating at the moment, this is the part where I'm having to learn myself. I'm trying to understand, how much should I be eating? How many calories should I be focusing on? How often should I be eating? And that's what I'm going to be kind of diving into as I go along, and what I'll be posting more throughout this next year is kind of like my process and how I'm learning all of that. But I did create kind of like a PDF where I left you, it's a link down below. It's a free link where if you guys want to check it out for yourself, or even if you want to do it with me, I've created a Facebook group so we could do this together, and fight this together. You know, I mean, here's the biggest thing, right? Is I've just chosen to find gratitude and be grateful for this opportunity to really understand what having a chronic illness is like and what having an autoimmune illness is like, because I truly view this as like my calling. Like, this is such a prevalent issue. 1 in 5 women in America have a thyroid disorder, and I just feel like it's something that needs to be talked about more and needs to be discussed more, so that people can really understand not only how important it is to practice good nutrition, but kind of to understand the crap that American food and drug industries are trying to put in our bodies. So for me, this is more than just working on this for myself. This is about spreading the message and helping other people going through the same issue. So yeah, that's kind of everything. That's my plan for right now. And thank you so much for sticking with me and watching this whole video if you did. If this speaks to you, if maybe you know someone who could use this information, please share this video with them. And again, I would love to chat with you in the Facebook group, or if you want to come check me out on Instagram, I'm giving like daily updates on what's going on in my life. And I love to chat with people there. So come join me on Instagram. Again, all of that information is down below. But yeah, so next time you'll see me is on Tuesday. I'm going to be doing a true crime and tarot video, talking this time about Kai and the Onision saga. So stick around and join me for that. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.